Trendy in movies lately for its lonely, doleful sound. The harmonica is picked as leitmotif for Mitchell, episode 512, a lonely, doleful cop, as he dogs well-to-do drug runners in Beverly Hills. As often as not, the scenes the instrument accompanies feature Mitchell commuting in his car, parking his car on stakeout, using a car to chase down suspects. If San Fran-bound Jody is largely identified by his vehicle, Mitchell practically lives in the thing. This is the 1970s man, roving in solitude across the American continental crust. Mitchell star Joe Don Baker's A-list career was launched 2 years earlier in the surprise hit Walking Tall, a movie in which cars also feature highly. As in this earlier film, along with A Touch of Satan and a million other examples, here too the producer has chosen to make the auto branding visible. At the key moment when Sheriff Pusser slams his bright tapioca Dodge Polara into the lucky spot, the corrupt gambling establishment plaguing his Tennessee town, the rear side of the wrecked car settles on its shocks, its logo center frame, and it sits there for several seconds. Did you say Joe Don drives a Polara? Car branding in movies is nothing new, of course. All parties profited handsomely when Grace Kelly and Cary Grant spent half of To Catch a Thief touring the Riviera in a Sunbeam Alpine convertible, or when Sean Connery made the Aston Martin a household name in Goldfinger. In these earlier movies, the car was as often a simulation, mocked up on an Eon Productions soundstage and rocking in front of a blue screen to evoke the sense of forward motion. 15 years on, moving photography has advanced enough to make location shots of, in, and from speeding cars practical, even for productions on modest budgets. This has aided car advertising, too, and the television programming of 1975 is replete with ads for the newest cars. They simply wind along open American highways, soothing soft rock accompaniments, putting one in mind of freedom and possibility. It's getting hard to tell the car ads and the movies apart, though, which is a bit eerie. What's more, the contented nuclear families and troubled masculine loners working these vehicles are starting to blend together, too. Thus, Walking Tall's Sheriff Pusser is a devoted and responsible family man, but in Mitchell, Joe Don Baker plays an incorrigible bachelor, one so puerile he gets into a spat with a smart alecky preteen. Most of us who've been young will recall the experience. You ask a question only to have your debater recite it back verbatim. You retort by pointing this out, only to have your rebuttal recited back in turn.
Why are you repeating what I say?
The kid asks Mitchell, seeming genuinely confused.
Crossfire.
What I say?
Retorts Mitchell angrily. Recall E.M. Forster's A Passage to India in the cave that answers every shouted interjection with boom. The Book of Corinthians advises grown men to set aside childish things. Mitchell's writers presumably mean to reference that theme here by conveying Mitchell's adolescent mien. Elsewhere, he spars with his commanding officer, who thinks him unequal to his job. And so we learn of his trouble assuming responsibility. His awkward way with love interest Linda Evans suggests, too, a man little familiar with romance, and his apartment's decor evokes a freshman dormitories. Such a far cry, this anti-heroic Mitchell from Sheriff Pusser, expert lawman, husband, and father. The trajectory of Joe Don Baker's stardom inevitably follows that of his characters across these two films, so that as the stalwart Pusser migrates from rural Tennessee to downtown Los Angeles to become the itinerant Mitchell, a number of other transformations also take place. The pilgrimage from country to city comes at the price of isolation, loss of family, and community. Where Pusser is grounded in the blood of his offspring and the soil of his hometown, Mitchell drifts alone through the maze of the modern city, absent any sense of belonging, lost to himself. All the city offers him is his own hollow echo, read back to him via a resentful child. This is the path from the country to the city, a path from the challenging contentment of marriage and family to the lifeless solipsism of modern urban existence. The taste for zealous drug interdiction Nixon brought to the zeitgeist only continues under President Ford, naturally, so Mitchell's intrigue revolves around a drug ring running between Central America and the marinas of Southern California. Note the handy symbiosis that has evolved between the narcotics market and low-budget Hollywood. Weekend with the Babysitter, Outlaw Riders, Hellcats, and countless other films make an easy plot point of the Hollywood Dream Factory's proximity to the narcotics trade across the border, if only to economize on excursions to location shoots. In turn, these two industries work in an uneasy synergy with the aerospace and computer industries cropping up around universities like Berkeley and Caltech and their mammoth military and NASA adjuncts, principally the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Each of these industries has its own particular balance of cynicism and optimism, but they're all bound up in fantasy, escape, and human aspiration. The space race, at least in its public-facing embodiment, concerns itself with the greater understanding, what some not entirely figuratively call the conquest of the extraplanetary void. The computer development program is tasked with mapping the human mind and unlocking the epistemological mystery at the limit of consciousness. The movie industry, at its too infrequent best, approximates the REM state as images on the screen, thereby drawing our dreams into reality and making them tangible. Finally, the drug trade, at its most forward-looking, via the teaching of Timothy Leary, Aldous Huxley, Alan Watts et al., traffics in states of transcendence. At their worst, illicit drugs salve life's pain and amplify its pleasures, even if this comes at the price of addiction, incarceration, madness, and death. Recall Disney's twinned amusement parks spanning the nation's southern shores from California to Florida, and recall also that these two states, for principally geographic reasons, are hubs of the narcotics trade. One must be careful what one accuses Walt Disney of, but it's easy to wonder once again about this curiously persistent collocation of the legitimate and the illegal markets in dreams. Just as Godzilla's makers have given up by Godzilla vs. Megalon, episode 212, on the illusion of grand scale and have incorporated visible human figures in their monster fights, so too the Andersons have abandoned the exquisite miniature world of Captain Scarlet. Thus, their latest sci-fi television outing in 1975, Space 1999, uses life-size performers. Later, one of the show's narrative arcs is distilled into a full-length TV movie, Cosmic Princess, episode K-10. This interstellar soap, like much popular science fiction these days, is plainly boosted off Star Trek. Its intrepid crew staffs the bridge as their stellar conveyance navigates the heavens, happening on indigenous societies all along the way. As in Star Trek, the ship captain, one Commander Koenig in this case, played by Martin Landau, leads Moonbase Alpha in fixing the problems these encounters cause. Said dilemmas usually involve choices between war and diplomacy. The moon base stumbles across two planets in conflict and must decide whether to lend its military force to one or the other, or resist attempts by one or the other to deceive or coerce the Alphans into an alliance. A habitable planet offers a chance at sanctuary and a new life, but the tribe of Moonbase Alpha must learn to coexist with a hostile native species. The aliens the Alphans encounter, like those on whom the Starship Enterprise alights, are typically signaled via outlandish costumes and makeup. The Andersons don't just crib from Star Trek, they also expand on it. They adapt the trademark image of the Enterprise in orbit around various planets, for instance. But 1975 has brought new and improved, truly kaleidoscopic deep space sequences to television. Planets and moons and dusty nebulas swirl and twirl as eagles, the moon base's signature fighter reconnaissance craft, power through the interstellar void. Their principal debt may be Star Trek, but the Andersons plainly owe much to 2001: A Space Odyssey as well. This cross-pollination between Star Trek and 2001, this uneasy but fruitful balance between Gene Roddenberry's colorful galaxy of adventure and Kubrick's cerebral despair, gets Space 1999 quite a long ways. The show's backstory has the moon base blasted from Earth orbit following some terrestrial scheming, after which the Alphans are condemned to careen through space forever without hope or purpose unless they can find somewhere else to call home. They encounter other societies in their aimless voyage, yes, but they're greeted as refugees at best, not as envoys of any stellar federation. In this way, then, Space 1999 substitutes a ruined realm for Star Trek's far-off utopia. With a few tweaks, one could even incorporate Space 1999, broadly speaking, into Star Trek's hypothetical near future. The human race of the Andersons' imagination would precede even the never-shown but much-discussed nuclear cataclysm in Star Trek's backstory. In Roddenberry's vision, the folly of 20th century avarice will devolve in the 21st into a third world war. The horrific consequences of this war will ultimately motivate Earth's survivors to form the United Federation of Planets to avert another such holocaust, just as the United Nations has been meant to prevent another great war in Eurasia. In this light, Space 1999's dystopia can easily be taken as a step on the way to Star Trek's inciting incident. Careless stewardship of atomic material on the part of Earth's petty bureaucrats is what knocks the moon into deep space, after all, so the Andersons' fin de siècle debacle would make a perfectly fitting prologue to the nuclear conflagration of 2026, according to Roddenberry. Whether by accident or by design, Space 1999 reads neatly into Star Trek. Though they're plainly different stories, with a few tweaks, they could basically inhabit the same fictional future. As our past is dissolving into many different narratives, our future is resolving into one, an inevitable near-term cataclysm followed by at least the hope of a collective rebirth. Koenig's role reprises Star Trek's Captain Kirk's, but the Andersons reframe Roddenberry's essentially optimistic worldview in bleaker terms. The Alphans are nomads, not emissaries of progress. No, even this comparison is too kind. The moon they're riding is careening out of control through the universe. This makes them more like castaways, refugees, accidental migrants. Their species enjoys little privilege in their encounters with other beings. Eventually, it seems likely they'll expire somewhere in the void, much like the jettisoned forest in Silent Running. And the only record of them will be whatever rubble might remain of Alpha for some future space archaeologist to pick through. What's worse, they've left behind an Earth in turmoil. Intractable conflict has flared up between its global rivals, and chaos is vomited forth from the same force that blew the moon out of orbit. If the Earth has not survived, then the moon's demise means that the erasure not only of the Alphans, but of all trace of humanity from the galactic history. Koenig feels this responsibility keenly. when he finds himself adrift in space in a predicament much like Poole and Bowman's in 2001, or before that, Major Moore's in Project Moonbase. It's been more than two decades since that came out, if you can believe it. He broods in voiceover. "97 minutes of life, and then no oxygen. Hallucination, a slow and peaceful drift through dream to real eternity. Or just nothing. The ultimate negative. Poison and pain and yet more pain. Until nothing. This body at peace, perhaps, for some future archaeologist, to fit into an historical puzzle." John Koenig from Planet Earth, the 9th and last commander of Moonbase Alpha. This matter of records has become important once again. What of ourselves will we leave behind? Will anyone ever find it? Will they care? Does it even matter that all of this has happened?
You can escape from reality. You can get away from this life for a while and go join another life, another century, a future century, past. You can just leave this place.